Welcome back to the Entrusted podcast. We have a unique one for you tonight. It's going to be slightly different than our standard show. This is going to come out on Monday, April 13th. And this Saturday, April 18th, there's a really awesome event going on in Auburn, Alabama at Iron Tribe Fitness. And that is why tonight we have Army Sergeant Josh Wetzel with us. Thank you for being with us, Josh.
Yeah, fired up to be here. Yeah. And also, didn't mention this, episode's going to release on my birthday.
Oh, wow.
How about that? The big 40.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
This
is perfect.
That is awesome.
Big time. So me and Ben will be celebrating that at 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
And so Brock's going to come too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you at 5.
You should join on Josh's 40th birthday.
I couldn't be out of town, but I would be there. Huh?
On Monday?
I have to trim on Saturday.
Convenient. Convenient. So we have Josh with us tonight. The event is called the Wetzel. We're going to get into all of this, but we're going to just go hard and fast right into the brunt of the story. And so why don't you take us back to May of 2012 in Afghanistan and kind of what led up to that, and then we will tell people what's coming up this weekend.
Yeah, so my unit, I was in the Army, and we were deployed to a little area outside of Kandahar, Afghanistan called Mushan. The biggest threat in that area was improvised explosive devices. Mostly they were pressure plate IEDs consisting of like wood, some kind of foam, another piece of wood, and then wires that led to an explosive in a battery. And then when you stepped on it, it completed the circuit and exploded. Where we were was pretty hotly contested in the Afghanistan area. So we were pretty close to the Pakistan border there. So it was, a pretty good supply route for the Taliban, to get, weapons, ammunition, everything they needed into Kandahar, right? Kandahar is the birthplace of the Taliban. And so as you can imagine, they fight for that pretty hard. It's a religious thing for them. And going into that, we had an idea of that threat. We didn't realize the magnitude of it until we had actually gotten to the COP where we were. We replaced another group out of Alaska, and my platoon actually was the first platoon at the COP. Usually when you're replacing another unit, you do what's called, ripping out with them, right? And so that you send an advanced group out there. They kind of walk you through the AO and the lay of the land, things that they've done well, things that have kind of hurt them in their deployment and stuff like that. And so we were the first ones out there, and it was just like we went into and met a group of guys that had it is like they had that like 100-yard stare all the time, every one of them. Because they had been through like the most brutal deployment. When they got there, they had replaced a special forces unit, and they didn't like properly rip out with them, so they didn't have any idea about the AO at all. They went in.
Okay, I was about to say the same thing. Just for
every time a military guy uses acronyms, I try to in my head figure out what they are. I'm gonna go with aerial ordinances.
Yeah. So area of operations.
Yeah.
Close. But yeah, so
it was worth a shot.
They didn't have any idea about the area of operations at all, right?
Yeah.
They didn't know about the biggest threats or anything like that. So they just went in to their normal, systems and processes and everything, and ended up losing a lot of guys and had to learn pretty much trial by fire and everything that they did. And so we learned from them pretty quickly. Every patrol we were going to go on was going to be like ducks in a row behind a metal detector. Which when you're in the Army, they teach you not to do that. Cause like one machine gun burst can take down an entire platoon. Right. But when you're fighting IEDs, that's what you have to do. And so, we set the tone pretty early, for our deployment. First time outside the wire, we got into like an hour and a half firefight. It was pretty crazy. And then we still had to continue on with our patrol and everything, like nothing happened.
Is this your first deployment? Or okay, so this is your first time in war.
Yeah.
I mean, you're out there.
Yeah, so I'd been in the Army, so I joined in 2010, and this was March of 2012 when I deployed. So I'm still pretty fresh.
Yeah.
I was a team leader as well, and so that kind of factored into where I was. But so like right out of the gate, we start out hot and it's like crazy, right? And I'm like, what did we just get ourselves into, And then the like subsequent weeks after that, it's like every time we go outside the wire, we're either getting shot at or finding IEDs. And I was like, this is wild. And so when we first got there, we basically handed the metal detectors to some of our lower enlisted guys, right? And because like we wanted the team leaders to be able to guide the patrols, right? And usually team leaders have a little more experience. I was kind of the exception. I had never deployed, but I worked hard and I studied a lot. And so we learned early on that wasn't going to work out, right? Because younger guys, they don't really have as much to lose. They don't have as much experience. They're not really as careful, right? And so we had a couple of guys get injured, nothing too serious. We had a couple of our strikers get blown up, which is a big like armored vehicle with 8 wheels on it. We were a striker brigade, and we didn't hardly ever get to use our strikers at all. And
because of that.
because of the IEDs that were everywhere.
And when y'all were going through basic training before you're deployed, do you train on the metal detectors and all that, or is that something you get over there? It's like, here's a metal detector.
Not at all. So as infantry, like you don't really train on that whole lot. They give you like basic, like this is how to turn it on. This is what it sounds like when you find something. But in the military, you have like what's called an explosive ordnance disposal team. Mm-hmm. And usually that's like 2 or 3 guys that deploys with you. And they're usually the ones that deals with all that stuff. But we had so many patrols and stuff going out that we couldn't take them on every single patrol. So we had to learn to do it ourselves. And so through, giving the younger guys the metal detectors and stuff like that, we kind of learned the hard way, like this wasn't going to work out. And so, one day I just told my platoon sergeant, I was like, hey, we got to do something different. Like we've had guys get injured. We've had trucks get blown up. Like if we don't change what we're doing, somebody's going to seriously get injured soon. Like we're just playing Russian roulette at this point. And he was like, well, what do you have in mind? And I was like, I'll take the metal detector. Like I'll go train with the EOD team every day, like for hours, and I'll learn it the best I can. And he was like, all right, figure it out. And so, it took me 3 or 4 days of like real intense training. I quit going on patrols for a couple days. And that's literally all I did from like sun up to sundown. And they would just set up courses and stuff inside of our base. And I would practice with it, right? I'd practice trying to move fast. I'd practice trying to be careful, how to mark them, all that stuff. And this
is just a traditional metal detector, like on a pole with a circle on the end.
Kind of. It's a little more advanced than that.
But like, do you have to be on top of the IED for it to pick it up, or it's like you got a little bit of a advanced?
You probably have like a 6-inch notice around Yeah, it's not a lot.
Jeez.
Did the Taliban? Surely they forgot where they would put all the IEDs.
Not always. So really? A lot of the times they mark them somehow, right? Gotcha. Whether it's like a line of rocks, they want to mark them to let the locals know, like, hey, stay out of this area. And so anyway, so I got really good at it. And then I started leading every patrol we went on. And like I started finding IEDs, like it was my job all along, right? I joke around all the time, like I had found and cleared over 32. So, if you go 32-1 in Major League Baseball, you're pretty good, right? In the military, that gets you some metal legs, And so anyway, so fast forward to
when you sorry to interrupt you again. When you found them, would you disable them, or is that was part of the job too? Kind
of. So I would find them. I had a guy behind me that would kind of come up and like positively identify it. So he had like a little scraper, and he would kind of scrape like from a distance. I mean, you don't want to be like right on top of it. So I would mark it the best I could. We use shaving cream because it just kind of goes away. And then he would come up and like scrape until he found the edge of a pressure plate or something that could positively identify. And then we would either mark it and leave it, or get the EOD team to come and clear it.
Got it.
So usually that part would take a good while. Okay. So it wasn't like a quick thing unless we were just marking it and going.
Got it.
which we did a lot if we were like trying to get through like towns and stuff and find bad guys. And so fast forward to May, you know, we were doing pretty well, and we had gotten like a Big Battalion Mission, where we were basically clearing from one side of our entire area of operations to the other. And our company was the last company to go. So like we were basically like one of 3 areas. And so they were basically clearing from east to west, and then it would go to the next, and then it was our turn, right? And so we were the last ones. We were, you know, basically trying to push all the bad guys out, all the stuff out, and then like reset and let's do this again, right? Or let's, you know, get everything stabilized. And so it was planned to be like a big 3 to 5 day mission, just kind of depending on how things went, right? And we were way ahead of schedule. We didn't find as many IEDs on that patrol or in those first few days as we normally did, which was weird. You know, and my spidey senses were kind of going off the entire time. And then May 30th, one of the guys in our northern element, so they had basically split us up into 3 groups. We were the central group. We had a group to the north and a group to the south, and we were kind of all moving together very slowly. And the group to the north, the guy that was leading the patrol, ended up stepping on an IED, losing both of his legs really high, both of them above the knee. And that shook everybody up. So at that point, you know, our first sergeant was like, hey, we're just going to have to stop for the day, regroup, like figure this out. And so we spend the night, and I'm just like, the whole night, I'm like, I don't really feel good about this, right? And so next day we get up, and we're moving along. We're moving through towns really well, and we're moving through some areas that I was pretty familiar with. We had been there before, and we had a lot of success finding IEDs in this area. And I kind of had an idea of where they would be if they were going to bury IEDs, right? Because I always looked at it from a standpoint of like if I was going to hurt somebody, where would I put them, right? And so that's kind of how I evaluated everything. And so we're literally motoring along. We're doing really well. And we can see our like final objective off in the distance to the west of us. And it's this little town called Kandahar. And nothing ever good happened in Kandahar. Nobody really went in there. It was infested with IEDs, but we were just going to clear it out. You know, we had an idea that there were some bad guys there. We're going to get them. It was going to be great. And so we could see that off in the distance. And we're walking along this wall. The wall's to my left. So where I was a very primitive area, right? So there's parts of Afghanistan in the north where it's like modern city, right? So it's like Kabul, places like that. And it's like a modern city like we have here, right? Well, where I was incredibly primitive. People still lived in like mud huts. They didn't have like running water, electricity. They still lived with their animals. Like, you think of like the days, like the biblical days, right? That's probably what it was like.
It's like the lone survivor, like you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Very similar, except without the mountains.
Right.
And so it was an incredibly primitive area. And so like we're walking up next to this mud wall, and it's to my left, and we're coming across a dirt road. And I had found IEDs on this dirt road in the past, and so I was kind of easing my way up to it. As I get up to like the corner of the wall where the road kind of goes in front, I look to my left a little bit, and I see this 2 lines of rocks, right? So like I said, they mark the IEDs a lot to let the locals know, like, hey, stay away from here. In my mind, I was like, this is somewhere on the road, right? So I radio back to my platoon sergeant. I'm like, hey, I'm going to take my time going across here. I'm going to mark it really well. Just want to, you know, make sure we don't have anything. He was like, all right, cool. So I did that. We marked it really well. Got everybody across, and then we've got like this big field, and then like another mud wall, and then they had these like grape rows everywhere because they just grow grapes all the time, and it's the wildest thing. So they build up these like mud like mountains, right, and then they grow the grapes on top, and the vines, you know, grow down the sides, and they just flood the field when they're gonna water it. And so, you know, going through those things it was awful because it was just like a big mud field all the time. And so we're coming up on this, and I'm like, oh God. So like I'm trying to figure out like a great place to cross the wall. And usually they tell you like, hey, don't go to the low spot in the wall, because us as Americans, we're really lazy. So like the Taliban, they know we're going to go to the low spot in the wall if we're going to cross the wall. So that's a great place to place an IED. Well, we had gotten so good at finding them, like they stopped putting them in the low spot. And we just started targeting the low spots. Like, hey, I can find this IED. Thank you for putting that there, because we're learning more about you every time we find them. And so go straight for the low spot in the wall. We've crossed this spot, dozen times, right? And I'm clearing in front of it. I'm clearing all edges, kind of along the wall a little bit. So like I'm real weary of like, if we take incoming fire, like I need to also have place for us to have like cover and concealment, right? So I'm trying to clear along the wall so that, if something starts happening, we can at least be up against the wall. And so I clear all in front of this wall. And then as I go to reach across the wall is when I stepped on the IED, just boom, right there. And I can remember everything, right? Flying through the air, doing a flip, landing on my back. And
was there any movie moment where like you stepped, heard a click, and you knew what had happened, or did it just like all occur like simultaneously?
No, it just kind of all occurred simultaneously. I can actually remember laying on the ground thinking like that didn't feel like a movie at all. It was just kind of like one minute I'm there, and then like I can remember like is the weirdest feeling, like that feeling like when you jump off of something and you're falling, or like you go on a roller coaster. Like it was kind of that in reverse. It was just like all of a sudden something sucked me up into the air, and then like I can remember like seeing the sky, the ground, the sky, and then bam, landed on the ground. And at that point I was like, they got me. I knew kind of what happened. I didn't even have to look down to see that I didn't have legs. I looked at my right arm first, and I have, some scarring over here, but I had like, pretty bloody spot over here. And I was like, that's not too bad. I looked at my left hand, and my middle finger was partially amputated, just kind of hanging there. And I was like, I'm not going to look at that again. So we'll just leave that to the side. And so then I start like, we have to carry tourniquets all over us, because, that's the biggest threat, right? And you always want to have tourniquets just in case. So we always had them in our like shoulder pockets, and then our leg pockets as well. Leg pockets were obviously gone, so shoulder pockets were the move, right? So I'm starting to get those out. And then about that time, my medic comes to me, and he's one of my best friends. We were really close, like the entire deployment. We, we're right there next to each other. We slept next to each other every night on cots, and we were really close. And he's normally like a shaky guy in real life. And I can remember thinking like, man, he's gonna be really shaky. Like he just watched me step on a bomb. Like I got to figure out something to calm this dude down a little bit.
Like
What a film.
I know you're retelling the story, but were you truly just having all these thoughts the way that you're describing it right now in that moment? Because it seems like it would just be so fight or flight, just adrenaline, all stuff. You're describing as if you're just kind of check this, need to think about this. Like, is that actually how it was going in your head at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I tell people all the time, like I wasn't, the Lord didn't bless me with a healthy fear of anything, right? So like from the time I was a kid, I was just the crazy kid. I explain myself as like Alice from Old Yeller. Like I was that kid. And so like joining the Army, getting shot at, jumping out of planes and stuff, like that was fun for me, And it was
I love our military. So thank you for them.
For you in pain, or is it just adrenaline?
So at that point, it was just adrenaline. Like I couldn't really feel anything. I knew that eventually I would start feeling it. And so like as he's coming to me, I'm like, I got to figure out how to calm him down. And like sure enough, he's just like, it's like in a movie. He just runs and like power slides into me, and he's like, doing his medic thing. He's one of the best medics in the world, and he's doing his thing. He's checking on me. He's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, hey man, like, calm down. And he was like, and he just continues going through. I was like, stop. And he's like, what? And I'm like, did you see that sick flip that I just did?
Oh my goodness.
And he looks me dead. He just stops dead in his tracks and looks me dead in the eye, and he was like, what? And I was like, did you see that? Like, if I would have had legs, I would have landed that 100%. And he was like, how'd you know you didn't have legs? I was like, well, you just answered the question for me, but it was sick, wasn't it? And so at that point, like, he started calming down. Like, you could visually see, like,
What a
his
blessing to
demeanor
have
change.
your best friend there to care for you.
Right.
Like, that's wild.
Yeah. Like, I honestly, like, I wouldn't have rather had anybody else, you know, get to me first, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally, I say he's the best medic in the world. Like, I would put him up against anybody in this world. Like,
That's awesome.
He's smart. He works well under pressure. Like I said, he's a shaky guy in normal life. So, like, just sitting around, like, his hands shake, and I'm just like, that's weird. Like chill out, you know? But, like, under pressure, it's like,
You get zoned in.
yeah. And
Yeah.
he's like perfect, you know? And so having him there was great. You know, I could joke around with him. I literally joked around the entire time I was there. I'm
That
allergic.
blows my mind.
Yeah. It's just a coping mechanism.
Yeah. Well, so I joke around about everything, right? And so, like, I also can't have morphine. So they have these, like, fentanyl lollipops, and what you're really supposed to do is, like, tape them to your finger, and then you, like, put it in your mouth until you're numb, and then it just falls out, right? Well, so I hate grape flavored.
Sounds pretty normal to me. I don't.
So I hate grape flavored things, and all he had was grape. And the entire deployment leading up to this mission, I was like, "What flavor do you have?" And he's like, "Grape." And I'm like, "No, like, there's got to be a different flavor." And he's like, "I think they got cherry in the aid station." Every day, he was like, "I'll go get it. I'll get cherry for you." You know, lo and behold, I'm laying there on the battlefield, bleeding out. Like, he's working on me. He's putting this fentanyl lollipop on my finger, and I'm like, "What flavor is this?" And he's like, "It's cherry." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I put it in my mouth, not cherry, and it's grape.
Grape.
And I'm like, "Bro, you're gonna have to find something else, because, like, if I put this back in my mouth, I'm gonna throw up. Then this is a whole nother set of issues we're dealing with here on the battlefield." And he's like, "That's all I got, man. You're gonna have to put it in your mouth." I was like, "I promise you, I will not stick this back in my mouth." And so at that point, he starts trying to, like, force it into my mouth. And then, like, you know, the toddler that I am, I just rub it in the Afghanistan dirt, because, like, they don't have, like, toilets or anything there. So, like, you're not going to make me, like, put that back in my mouth, because whatever's in that dirt's way worse than not having it, right? And so, you know, he's like, "All right, you're going to regret that," you know, like any parent would, you know. And I just looked him dead in the eyes, like, "I promise I won't." I did regret it later on, but, you know, I had to prove my point. But anyway, so
I feel like what you just described right there was one of those SNL skits, or like something on a comedy skit that goes way too far than it should.
100%.
And, like,
Yeah.
I could visualize that whole scene because of how you're describing it. It would be really funny if it was done tastefully.
yeah. I took it way too far. Yeah, I 100% took it way too far. But, you know, I proved my point.
Check.
Yeah. Anyway, so, you know, where we were, it was about a 45-minute helicopter flight out there. So we had to wait for a good while for it to get out there. You know, like I said,
Give me some more details in the, like, does he literally just tourniquet off both of your, like, upper thighs, or?
Yeah, so he tourniqueted both of my upper thighs, both of my arms, which presents a lot of other issues as well, because you can't get any, like, IV fluids in me or anything like that. And at that point, like, the pain started setting in, like, the adrenaline's, you know, coming down. And so at that point I was like, man, it's like I need water, something. Like, I'm hot, I'm dehydrated, like, and they can't really give you anything, you know. And so at that point I started struggling. About that time, the helicopter lands. They put me on the helicopter. On the flight back to Kandahar, I was like, man, I woke up early. Like, I'll probably just take a nap. You know, it's not a big deal. Long flight, I'll do that. The flight medic had other ideas. He was going to keep me awake the entire time. So he, you know, sternum rubbed me quite a few times to keep me awake. I was not happy about that. When you can't get IV fluids, they have to do what's called the fast one. So it basically, like, it's like a needle that goes through your sternum to basically get you fluids. And so it's like a big needle with a series of needles around it to kind of take the pressure off. And so when he told me he was going to have to give me the fast one, I watched that in training one time, and the guy that volunteered for it had a very hard time. And I was like, I'm not doing that. You won't you won't do that to me. And I had some very choice words with him. He disappeared out of my, purview vision. And I was like, thank goodness I talked him out of that. Next thing I know, this big burly man's on top of me, like shoving this thing into my sternum. And when it popped through, I was like, all right, this is not fun anymore. Like, I joked around on the battlefield.
I want the grape back.
Yeah, give me the grape. And at that point, it was gone. And so I don't really remember a whole lot on the flight after that because I was just mad. And then
probably going in and out of consciousness.
Right, yeah, and maybe I think the last thing I remember is getting like landing and like telling the flight nurse like, hey, like just put me to sleep. Like I know like y'all got a lot of work to do, just put me to sleep. And she was like, we'll get there, And then I woke up in Germany, I don't know, 3 days later I think. So they basically how they do it is they kind of get you stable enough to make each checkpoint, right? So they got me from Kandahar to Kabul. I stayed there for a day. They got me a little more stable from Kabul to I think straight to Germany at that point. And then I woke up in Germany. My mom came to Germany to meet me there. I was not a pleasant person while I was there because I had also lost my contacts during the explosion, so I couldn't see. I had a nurse named Katy Perry who wouldn't sing to me. There was a whole lot of things going on. Obviously, I'm also on a lot of pain medication as well. So I'm not a pleasant person, as you could imagine.
I actually can't imagine because of all the jokes you're sharing. Like, I can't imagine you just like not being pleasant.
I have a quick question though. So
Yeah.
Was it common if you stepped on an IED? Is it IED, right?
Yeah.
Do you lose both your legs pretty much every time, or do some people completely like
It
die?
just depends on the explosive, the size of the explosive, right? Like some of them are made to just mess you up enough to like bring your group together so they can attack you, right? So they're made to cause like chaos and confusion. Sometimes it's big for a vehicle, sometimes it's big to like kill somebody, sometimes it's just like, in my case, I guess mine was like a medium one, I guess. Or it was either medium or it was buried too deep, which also happens. And so it just depends on the situation, right? So like one of my friends stepped on an IED, and it was buried too deep and it literally just broke his ankle. I had one of my platoon sergeant, he's a triple amputee. He stepped on an IED as well. So he lost both legs and an arm. I've got friends that I was at Walter Reed with that are quadruple amputees. I got two of them, Travis Mills and Taylor Morris, incredible human beings. But so it just depends on the IED and how they build it and how deep they bury it. So yeah.
Interesting.
In those 3 days, are you starting to at all just start to process any of this, or is it really just hard to get through and you're just day by day and you're, like you said, you're frustrated and all that?
Yeah, so I was unconscious for the 3 days leading up to Germany. Okay. And then like when I was in Germany, I think I was so heavily medicated that it wasn't really sinking in. Mm-hmm. And it didn't start sinking in until the flight from Germany to America. Because at that point I knew like I'm gonna have to like face my wife at this point. And in my mind, for some reason, I was like, she's gonna be mad that this happened.
Does she have any idea?
Yeah. So the day I stepped on it, she actually got a phone call. It was actually pretty quick from what I understand. And she was living in Tacoma, Washington at the time. She was getting ready for work. She had missed the original call, and she, listened to the voicemail, and it was like, hey, Miss Wetzel, this is, so-and-so from the Department of the Army. If you could just give me a call back at your earliest convenience. And at that point, she knew that like something bad had happened. She just knew that I probably wasn't dead, because they're not going to just call you if you were dead. Like they're going to come to your house, right? Mm-hmm. And so like she called them back, and they explained what happened. And then they were like, so do you want us to call his parents and tell them, or do you want to do that? And she was like, no, you can call them, and she was like, so what are my next steps? And she was like, I don't know what to do from here. And they were like, well, so he's probably going to go to one of two hospitals, either Walter Reed Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland, or Fort Sam Houston, I think, is the other one, at Brooke Army Medical Center.
I have one thing just for context, and I know we're not going to go deep into your story before this, but how long had y'all been married at this point?
So we got married in January of 2010. And so
Pretty fresh.
couple of years, at this point. Okay. And so it was like we got married and then we moved across the country together, basically.
Wow.
So then I'm flying to America, and that's when it really started setting in, right? And I was like, I don't have legs, but like at no point did I think like this is going to ruin my life, right? Like I said, like God didn't give me a healthy fear of anything, right? So I didn't really fear not having legs. I feared more my wife being mad at me, which was an irrational fear, of course. And so like we get to Walter Reed, they take me up to my room in the ICU, and I'm, just laying there kind of by myself for a little bit. And, Paige comes walking in, and she, she said, like, I just started like bawling, crying. And she was like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Like, are you in pain? And I was like, no, I'm fine, And she was like, well, why are you crying? And I was like, well, I lost my legs in Afghanistan. And she was like, yeah, no, like we know where they are. We're just not going to go back and get them, And so she just kind of set the tone like for the rest of my recovery from that point forward, I guess.
Y'all both have awesome humor.
Yes.
Goodness.
Yeah. You have to in those situations,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
So they were just stabilizing you from Kandahar to Kabul to Germany, back to Walter Reed, and then surgery occurs. Like then they kind of fix you.
Yeah.
Once you get back to the
So
States.
at that point is when and Walter Reed's probably the top hospital in the world if you're an amputee. They got the best prosthetists there. They got the best physical therapists there. They got some of the best doctors there. One of the doctors or plastic surgeons while I was there won like plastic surgeon of the year because he took a dude's toe. It made it into like a functioning thumb. That was incredible. So that just kind of gives you the level of hospital it is, right?
Yeah.
So when you get there, they're just kind of basically getting you ready to, return to life. Some dudes are returning to like military. Some dudes are, transitioning out of the military and going back into normal life. And so it's a very, wide range of circumstances there.
And you were there for quite a while, right? What was the timeline of that?
Yeah, so I got there June the 5th, so it took about 5 days for me in total for me to get there. And then, so that was 2012, and then I retired in March of 2014 is when we moved to Auburn.
Yep. But I mean, like actually in the hospital, you were like there, then recovery. Like how long were you actually there until you could walk out of the hospital?
Yeah, so that's kind of funny. So for me, it seemed like years, a long time, right? But in reality, it wasn't that long. Like I said, I had some of the best doctors in the world. I had a lot of luck as well. I never had really any infections or anything like super serious. I did have like one thing where I had to go back into the hospital for a while. But like I was like already up on prosthetics by like Christmas of that year. So pretty quick turnaround. So it like being in the hospital, I wasn't there very long. And so like they even there, they transition you kind of into different areas, right? So like you're in your actual hospital, you start in the ICU, then you're stable enough. Then you go to like a regular room that's on like the 4th floor of the hospital there. And that's kind of like the amputee wing, and then that's when you're like going through your surgeries. You're in surgery every other day, whether they're like cleaning out your wounds or, doing something else, skin grafts, whatever. It's kind of like a big car wash, right? They do everything at once. You go surgery Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then like.
What if that's what your calendar looked like for the week? Yeah. I got 3 surgeries this week. Goodness gracious.
It's kind of crazy. Like when you really think about it, that was like normal life at that point. But like now that I'm out of it, I'm like how did we get like, it's like a vortex of time that's like so weird,
Yeah.
Like surgery 3 days a week and then like weekends just, recovering and sleeping and all that stuff and physical therapy and all that.
Was Paige with you, or did she have to go back and work? What was that?
Yeah, so she stayed with me. We had some great friends up in Washington, so they basically helped like pack up our apartment and everything. The Army put everything into storage for us. And so her and my mom stayed there the entire time I was in the hospital. And then once you get out of like the hospital portion of it, they have like some revamped barracks. It's almost like a 2-bedroom apartment that you live in. And that kind of like helps you, like you're going to like your physical therapy appointments and occupational therapy and stuff at that point. And then like transitioning out of the Army, which that takes a good while as well. So overall it was about like 2 years, but in the hospital itself, it was probably, 5-6 months.
So normally when we were doing this at this point, we would have heard kind of first birth, second birth testimony. But since we didn't do that, I'm curious, are you at this point, are you a believer? Is that a big part of your story in this, or does all this happening lead you towards your faith? Is that part of your testimony? I'm curious to hear from that situation.
Yeah, so I grew up in church, right? My grandmother was very adamant that I was there every single time the church was open. I went to a little Baptist church in Glencoe, Alabama, and so I knew God. I was saved when I was in the 4th grade, and I have a friend of mine that talks about like basically just bought the fire insurance. Like I didn't want to go to hell. So I was like, this is what I got to do, right?
Jim used that term last night.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Life insurance.
Oh, fire insurance, life insurance.
Same.
More that. And that was the Presbyterian talking. This is the Baptist talking.
Right, there you go.
Right. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I basically bought the fire insurance, and then, growing up, obviously, like I was, like my mom was a travel nurse. I lived alone a lot. And so, I was kind of a menace to society, right? I fell way off the path, right? Went to college, didn't really know where I was going, got even worse. And then like after I had joined the Army, like it started, I was like, I need God in my life, and then, once I, got injured, it was like, for real, like I can't do this without you, God. I literally don't have legs. And I can't do this without you. And my family, they're incredible. Like, every step of the way, they never let me, doubt myself. They, it was very, God-centered in everything we did. And so, that's when my faith, I really started to discover like my real faith, right?
And how old are you at this point in time?
Yeah. So I would have been 25, 26, 27, something like that. 27 probably.
That's us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quick question before we keep moving forward. Going back to, I think a big theme that we've seen across all guests is that no matter the trial that the Lord not necessarily puts you through, but that you go through, He equips you with the skills. And so I'd say your personality probably was perfect for what you went through. But do they train you to understand or know how to act when you get essentially blown up? And then B, how did other people that went through the same experience, how did they handle it?
Yeah.
Is it differently than you or worse? Or
Yeah, so not everybody handled it like me. I would say I would be one of like an anomaly, right? Okay. There were a few like me, like my friend Travis Mills, who's a quadruple amputee. I feel like he had a very similar experience to what I had, specifically on the battlefield. It's like later on when it starts to hit you. But like, there are other guys out there that, they'll step on an IED and they're laying there and it's like, how am I going to live my life like this, right? We had a guy that was injured in my platoon as well. And my medic talks about like the differences between like me and him, right? And the other guy like really shook him up because it was like, how am I going to like teach my kid to throw a football, or how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Whereas like, I was like, I'm going to get those like running legs like Oscar Pistorius. This was before, he shot his wife or whatever. And he was still cool at that point, so I was like, I'm going to do that,
Have you seen the Cat Williams?
Yeah. Poor little Tink Tink. Yeah.
Tink.
I haven't seen that.
I also have running legs
watch
that
later.
Have been in my attic since I moved to Auburn. They'll never come down. I don't like running. I didn't like running that for
paper clips.
Yeah, it's pretty much that.
Ski erg in the mornings.
Yeah. So
the row.
Those will never come out of my attic. My daughter begs me all the time. I'm like, no chance. Won't do it. Yeah, and also like I don't want to pass this up, but like being at Walter Reed helped a lot with like my attitude and how I handled things as well. Because like I could see other guys that were going through what I was going through, and I could see guys that struggled with it. I could see guys who didn't struggle with it. There were guys there that were in much worse situations than I was. Like I said, I was there with 2 quadruple amputees. Like I couldn't have gone in at a better time, I guess. I don't like. It's kind of hard to say that because you don't want, to make light of what happened to them. But like they were incredible inspirations to me. Like I had, one of them, I was battling through like whether to amputate my finger or not, right? And one of them comes rolling into my room and he's like, "What's up, man?" And I was like, just kind of down. And they were like, "Why?" And I was like, "They want to amputate my middle finger." He was like, "No, man, that's your finger. Don't let them amputate that," And, like that coming from a quadruple amputee, you're just like,
Thanks, man.
yeah, why am I complaining about this finger? But yeah, I'm also going to keep it, But yeah, it was an incredible experience. And, if to be able to go through that with all the guys that I went through and the families, right? So like we were there with guys who were married, who had kids, who had babies. One of my best friends from there, like his wife was pregnant while they were in the hospital. She's like 5'2", and they had like a 10-pound baby, and it was unbelievable. That baby was huge. And they had that baby while he was in the hospital. Wow. And it was incredible. It was wild.
Did you have any opportunities with some of those people to like share the gospel with any of them that didn't know, or were there guys that were also believers that you were able to walk through this together? I'd be curious to hear that.
Yeah, I would say like I wasn't really strong enough in my faith to be able to like share that, with other people. And in the military, you never really know, right? There are a lot of people who, they've never experienced God at all. There are a lot of people that are like, I'm not, there's no chance that I would ever be a Christian. Like, so it's kind of like a sensitive subject, right? And like I said, I wasn't strong enough in my faith to be able to share that. Now outwardly, like on social media and stuff like that, like we shared it and we were very open with it. We started a Facebook page called Prayers for Josh Wetzel. It started as like a page to update my family, and it grew up into like 19,000 followers, like that, because I'm from like a small town, and like everybody shares it, and it's like all of Alabama knows about it, and it was the craziest thing,
Yeah.
So take us, and for everybody listening too, we want to dive even deeper into your story and kind of just some of the impact that it's been able to have on others and the way the Lord used it in your life at another date sometime. But we really want to highlight and encourage people to think about 6 more days from now on Saturday the 18th. Mm-hmm. Did I get that date right?
Yeah.
The Wetzel. Mm-hmm. And so kind of blend the ideas of fitness, helping other people through your own experience, which is what the Apostle Paul talks about in 2 Corinthians, that God is a God of all comfort, and that as he comforts us in our affliction, we're able to then turn around and comfort others who walk through affliction as well. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're able to do now through this foundation that you co-founded with Paige. And so just talk about finding Iron Tribe and fitness, and then involving the community on that, and kind of what your foundation does, and tying all that together.
Mm-hmm. So we moved to Auburn after I retired. I was originally coming to just finish school, and then we ended up staying here. When I got out of the Army, when I was at Walter Reed, everything was like perfect, right? Like everything was made for me as a handicapped person, right? And then you come out into the real world where it's not at all, right? And so, I had to learn to like adapt through that. And then at that same time, like I'm coming from like the battlefield of Afghanistan into like normal life, like that. I mean, in reality, it was a couple years, but what it feels like, you leave the Army, you leave your community, you're like, hey, I'm probably not going to exercise again because military PT is like terrible. They have this, you don't feel like you're working out unless you're like about to die, and so I was like, I don't never really want to work out again. I'll just go live my life, And so leaving that community and then, not having fitness in my life started to change me in a big way, right? And I started working at Auburn, and everything on the outside seemed great. On social media, everything was portrayed like everything was perfect, right? We had a perfect little family. Behind closed doors, everything was going bad, right? I was super depressed. I was running away from God. I was running away from my family. I was running away from everything, right? And fast forward to probably like 2022, like right after COVID. So probably COVID, and then right after that, I was like super depressed. I was getting fat. I was super out of shape. But like I said, like everything on the outside looked great. But behind closed doors, like I'm legit running from my family. At that point, me and Paige were separated. We're living in a house together, but in separate rooms. Nobody really knew about it. It was just kind of big secret. And like I started, just one day I saw an ad on Facebook for Iron Tribe, and I was like, I probably need to go get in the gym again, And like I had tried other gyms in Auburn, like I tried CrossFit out on the plains. They were incredible. They, reached out to me, one year, and they were like, hey, we want to give you a free membership here for a year, see if you liked it. I didn't love it, there's nothing on them. It just didn't work out well for me. And, I felt like that, the way it was built didn't help me to figure out like what I could and couldn't do. So I quit that. And, again, I'm running away from everything. So I'm like, I'm not going to do this gym thing. And so I see this ad for Iron Tribe, and I was like, I'll try it out, And at that point, like I was really also struggling with a lot of survivor's guilt. So like one of my good friends got killed in Afghanistan as well. And I couldn't really like put together like, so like before I got hurt, nobody else got hurt, right? Because I was good at my job, right? And then after I got hurt, my platoon sergeant stepped on an IED. He was a triple amputee. One of my good friends stepped on an IED. He got killed, kind of all within the same week of each other. And it was hard for me, and I battled that internally. I never really talked to anybody about it. And so like every year around, we call it my Alive Day. So May the 31st, we call that my Alive Day. Sometimes, Memorial Day is always around that time. Sometimes it falls on May the 31st as well. And so I was getting to the point where it was like getting very toxic, right? I was like, I have to like feel the pain of like my friend dying, right? I never want to forget the pain of what that felt like that day that I, found out about it. And so, at that point I was getting tattoos and stuff like that. And I was like, I have to do something a little more healthy cause I always want to feel the pain of it. Right. I never want to forget that. And so I was like, let's try to curb this in more of a healthy way. Right. And it was truly like a God thing. Because like at that point I'd stopped going to church with my family, like Paige and the kids were going to church. I was just staying home, sleeping late. I would go out on the weekends and, go drink and stuff like that. And then, like I said, I saw the ad on Facebook, and I just reached out, and then met Austin and Jackson at the Kroger Starbucks, which was the sketchiest thing in the world. Austin was like, yeah, meet me at the Kroger Starbucks. And I was like,
Nice move, Austin.
yeah, I mean, we could meet at the gym, but sure, let's do that. I didn't know
The friend Manny Starbucks.
Not the one in the grocery store.
The coffee shops that are around Auburn.
right, or the actual Starbucks.
Austin, I hope you're watching this.
But so
It turned out.
I go to meet them, and at that time, I didn't realize the gym wasn't even fully built yet. And I just sat down with them, and I just completely opened up. I was like, hey, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know, like I'm in my legs less and less every day. It's painful, in my mind, like I'm going to start working out and it's going to be more painful. It's going to create a lot more issues, but like, I feel like I have to do something. And, Austin, just for whatever reason, was just like, yeah, like I want to figure this out with you. I want to kind of walk through this with you, right? And at the end of the meeting, I was like, oh, I didn't tell you this, but like I want to be able to do the Murph as well. And he was just like,
I can see his face.
yeah. He was like, yeah, no,
Okay.
we'll figure that out, you know? And, you know, he didn't have any idea where I was physically or anything like that. At that point, like I couldn't even do squats, couldn't do any pull-ups. Like I can remember the first time we tried to do pull-ups and I like, yeah. And then like, that was it. And it was like,
Gonna
okay.
make the Murph hard.
Yeah. All right.
150
go hard.
or 100 more of those?
Yeah.
99 more of those?
Right. And so, like I said, he really wanted to walk through it with me. And so like I started working out there and I started doing like the individual one-on-one workouts with him. And, you know, we got really close and, you know, I started doing a lot of really cool things. Like I started deadlifting and I started actually doing pull-ups. And, just one day I, you know, figured out like I could do a squat, on a box, you know, like I can remember like I would have to hold on to two of the rings and like lower myself down with my upper body and then like really pull myself up. And then one day I was like, maybe I can do this without holding on, you know? So nobody was watching. It was just me. And I was like, I tried it out and I was like, this is incredible. And so I was like, Austin, watch.
man.
You know? And so I did it and it was like, oh, awesome. So then that opened up, you know, Austin's mind. He's like, oh, now you can do that. Let's do harder things, you know?
Yeah.
And so we started doing harder things, you know? And so at some point, I started getting my confidence back and started really pushing myself hard and finding that fitness. And like me and him started getting really close. And he, around my either Christmas or my birthday, I think it was my birthday, I was just on the rower one day and Paige came in. And like I said, at this point, we're still separated. But like Austin Austin didn't know, nobody knew. And you know, she came in and I was like, that's weird. Why is she here? And she had like a gift box, you know, and, she brought it over and, they were all like, happy birthday. My kids were there too, you know? And so I opened it up and it was like, you know, a weighted vest. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to need this for the Murph, you know? And then I look a little further and it's like a framed thing. And I start looking at it and it's this workout. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, is this my workout for like the rest of the time that I'm here, like today? And Austin was like, no, like I wrote this for you. It's named after you, you know? And like he had like taken the time to like really sit down and like every piece of it, like break down the significance of it, right? So it's like, you know, like the overhead carry, you know, symbolizes, you know, like, you know, getting carried off the battlefield. And then like you come back in, you build your bar and that's like the start of putting your life back together. And then, you know, it's all the movements that I learned to do in my journey through this, you know.
I didn't know Austin wrote that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it was really cool. You know, Austin's not super like thought-provoking person all the time, but like he's, you know, when he does dive in, he does a really good job, you know. And it was
meant to be a compliment, Austin.
right. It is meant to be. And it was really cool. And I just, you know, it was really amazing. And so like I went on to do the Murph that year. We did the Wetzel that year, kind of a little bit after my Alive Day, because my Alive Day was around Memorial Day again. And so we did Murph and then we did the Wetzel later on. And that, you know, turned out to be a terrible workout. And I was like, this is really hard, bro. Like, I don't really even know for friends, you know? And so like, as we're going through this, I start seeing like the importance of like this community that's building right at Iron Tribe. I'm like starting to find like real friends again and starting to like do life with people like Austin, you know, and then I start seeing like what am I doing? Like, why am I running away from my marriage? You know, why am I running away? Why, like, what is so important that I'm willing to just throw this marriage away, my relationship with my kids? Like, what is so important, you know? And then, so like 2 years ago, right before Christmas, you know, I just told Paige, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how we're going to rebuild this, but like I just want to like reconcile this. Right. And she is incredible. Like, she fought for our marriage every step of the way. Like, I know she went into that bedroom every single night. When I went into the guest bedroom, she went into our bedroom, and like, she was just in there on her face, just praying every single night, for God to just save our marriage, and
Praise the Lord.
she had no hope at all. She was like, and I intentionally just tried to like do things to like not give her any hope through that process. And, through all that, I was just like, what is going on, And, so, fast forward, like I had brought her to Iron Tribe during Bring a Friend Month. And at that point, we were still separated. So it turned out as kind of a jerk move on my part. But I was like, Austin was like, you guys can get free shoes if she joins, And I was like, I mean, it's a win-win, right? You get shoes, I get shoes, you get to join a gym. You like to work out, it's cool, and she just the entire time is like, why? What is going on? Like, what do you want to do, And so through all that, like, I just realized like how much I needed her and how important she was in my life and my kids and in this life that I had committed to in front of our family, in front of God, in front of everybody, And long story short, like, I ended up, like, opening up to Austin. This is really the first time I've spoke about it publicly, honestly. Like, so, welcome to the podcast. But it was just Iron Tribe was just such an important place for me because it gave me that community, right, that I had been missing since I left the Army. I lost my government-appointed community, and it gave me community again. It gave me and Paige something to do together. We never really did anything together, but it gave us something to do together and to work towards together, right? And then it also, helped me to really find my confidence in myself and my reliance on God again, right? I realized, like, I cannot do this without God in my life. Like, I'm just lone wolfing things right now, and it is not going good. And it's just funny how God uses moments like that where you're just like flat on your face, like you just fall, you hit the ground hard, and it's like, it should have been the bomb that did that in my life. And it was to an extent, right? But it was that moment where I was just miserable. And I was like, I've got to figure all this out, And so, we start going through all that. Me and Paige start reconciling our marriage. We go to counseling, all this other stuff. And we're really finding like our love for each other again. And we're really working towards like building our marriage. And it's still like an ongoing thing, right? We're still there's a lot of trust that was broken in that time that, we'll spend forever doing, there was a day I was like, what is it that, I want in a marriage, right? And so I started looking at other people's marriages around Iron Tribe, and I was like, what is it that makes this special, right? And I started looking at Robin, Dana, Pate, and Austin and Mariah, and just kind of everybody that kind of did that together, right? And I started picking out things, and I was like, I'm missing that. I need that, And so I really wanted to build that with Paige, and we've worked really hard to build that, and just like I said, this Iron Tribe thing, it gives us that thing to do together, right? So it's kind of like that. It's like a date night without a date night, right? Mm-hmm. So we get to come in the mornings, and sometimes that sucks. We don't even really talk all the time, but like we're doing it together.
Physical presence.
We're all very quiet and
right. and like corporate suffering, like it brings people closer, right? Sure. That's how we did things in the Army. That's how I like to do things now, I guess. I don't really choose to live that life, but it chooses me. And so through this, I started realizing like we got to do more. Like I want other people to experience what I'm experiencing. And so, 1 year the ASBA, the Auburn Student Veterans Association, they were like, hey, we want to do something with you. And so we did the MRF, right, that first year. And we, broke broke even on money raised, right? So we hit $0. It was great. And then the next year they were like, why do we do the Murph? Like, why don't we do, like, you have a workout named after you. Why don't we do that? And I was like, I don't know if y'all understand what you're getting yourself into. We can do it, but y'all aren't going to like it, you know? And so, you know, last year was the first year we did like the Wetzel as like the partnership, right? And we ended up raising $3,000
wow.
in that time. And so they were like, well, we'll just give you the money. And I was like, I don't really want the money. I don't need it. Like, let's help somebody else out, you know? And through that process, you know, we realized like the bureaucracy of like, if you give Auburn money, like you kind of lose control of it or whatever. And we ended up like finding a couple to end up sponsoring and paying for their membership at Iron Tribe.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of the things I do, you know, you probably learned this through the podcast, is that I kind of fly by the seat of my pants everywhere I'm going, you know? So I get started out, I was like, let's just give it to the veteran. He needs it, you know, it'll be great. It'll be kind of like me. He'll find himself, rebuild himself, whatever. And then like we're sitting there at Taco Mama, remember it clear as day, me and Paige, him and his wife, sitting there talking. And I was like, why don't we just make this a family thing? Like, why don't y'all both come? And we didn't even have the money to really do that. We had raised $3,000. And like, I didn't know if that was going to cover them both or not. But I was like, let's just do it. You know, we'll figure it out. I don't know how it's going to work, but we're going to do this, you know? And so then I started like talking to Austin. I talked to Paige. I talked to some other people. And just kind of through all that, we decided like, we're going to have to like start our own foundation if we want to, you know, be in control of like where that money goes. And like, if we're going to help families like join Iron Tribe and military families join Iron Tribe, like we're going to have to start a foundation, which, you know, when you're trying to repair a marriage, like is not always the best thing to do. Right.
But start a nonprofit.
Yeah. Let's just
that's not a headache.
Right. Let's just dive right on in and get crazy, you know? And, but, like I said, like the Lord has just blessed every step of this, because like my entire, you know, since I've been injured, people are like, you should start your own nonprofit, you know, like you're a great, you know, personable person. Like, you know, people would give you money, you know, why not? And I'm like, no, I will help other nonprofits. I would not want to do that myself, you know? And then here I am. Tell Paige all the time, like, I have this bad habit of waiting until like God has got to like Spartan kick me in the chest to like wake me up, you know? And so
Seems to be a male trait.
Yeah.
We talked about that last night.
Yeah, that's definitely me for sure. And so Forging the Warrior Family was started. And so like, this is our first year kind of taking over the Wetzel. So we're in partnership with the Auburn Student Veterans Association, the Veterans Resource Center at Auburn, Iron Tribe. And so this Saturday is going to be that first Wetzel where Forging the Warrior Family is kind of taking the reins. And it's a cool thing, right? So, you know, we get the opportunity to raise money to help veterans and their families get memberships at Auburn.
So awesome.
Because we want veterans to be able to, one, find that community, right? That's a super important thing that veterans lose as soon as they get out of the Army. And then we want them to do it with their families. So, you know, they're not just doing that alone, because a lot of nonprofits for veterans only do things for the veterans. They don't do things for the spouses. A lot of times there are some, you know, some out there that do a really good job. And so we wanted to help the entire family. And if they've got kids, we want to bring the kids along. And Iron Tribe, Austin and Derek have been incredible as well, helping us along in this journey. And so, you know, they've worked with us on a package where we can do that. We can bring the entire family in for a year. And like I said, we started with the one family last year. We've already raised enough money to probably bring in 3 families. I think this coming year, we're going to try for 2. So the one we already started with, and then add another one. And then we're going to try to build from there every year.
That's awesome.
And we're just really excited about it. Excited about what God's, you know, doing through this foundation. We couldn't do it without God. I'm not good at this stuff. Paige is really good at it. I'm terrible at it.
You're a great spokesman for it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Man, we don't really need to say a whole lot else other than that. That was a really cool. I didn't know. Obviously, I've heard about the foundation, know about the Wetzel. Was super honored to be there participating in it last year. Excited for next Saturday, but to just hear the impact that's going to make on those people and their families and Lord willing generations down the road. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how new it was. It's so well done that I thought this thing had been running for years.
Yeah. I attribute that to my wife. She does, and like I said, she's incredible. She's very like, I'm fly by the seat of my pants. Like she does my calendar for me even. And so like she does everything like.
I have noticed when they ask, or when Rusty asks for an update in the morning, it's always her answering.
Yeah. I try to like chime in every now and then, but she gives the important details. I give the not as important details.
Well, and just for our listeners, we'll put it in the post.
That's right.
Yeah, when it's
So
supposed to
I'm going to be a salesman for a minute. That's where I'm going.
Here we go.
So
Blayne's the best at this.
Here we go.
wardamwetzel.com. Wetzel.
Yep.
That is a source of information for all the details. So the workout itself is in there, and I wanted to backtrack to just be encourage everyone. It doesn't matter what your level of fitness is. It doesn't matter if you're in the gym regularly or if you just want to come and support a great cause. There's also other fun stuff to do for the family, for kids, and then you can participate. There's plenty of scale options. You could walk the 400 meters. You don't have to carry a plate. You could do some of those other things. And so it's a very approachable workout that supports this initiative. And then the sign up is on the website. There's, because of interest in the amount of people that will be there, there's multiple heats. So, I think it's like 7, 8:30 and 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's a wonderful community event and supports everything that the Wetzels are doing. And I'm just really encouraged to hear. It's really cool James says to count it all joy when we meet trials of various kinds, because the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. And you got your legs blown off, which is something that I can't even relate to in the slightest. And the Lord used that. The beauty of Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to those who love God, is it that some idiot Muslim Taliban fighter put that IED in the ground right there, and that IED was used to reconcile you and Paige's marriage. Like, who knows where it would have gone. And that's the power of God's work in our lives in the gospel, is that even an IED buried in the ground in Afghanistan can bring good fruit from it. And so it's just an amazing story.
That's great.
It's hard to, that was good, Blayne.
Thank you.
So sign
I'm
up.
fired up.
Yeah.
Sign up.
Ready to go play.
Brock's going to come.
Do some power cleans.
Brock's going to sign up live right now.
That'll take a second, but we'll make sure he does it. We don't want to delay.
We'll see y'all there, though. Thanks for coming on.
We'll make sure we'll put everything down in the links and descriptions and stuff.
We'll get it all put in there.
Thanks, Josh.
Appreciate you guys.
Hey guys, this is Blayne, one of the hosts here at Entrusted. We are really grateful you chose to spend some time with us today. We know you have lots of options, and we hope that the thoughts and the messages from this talk we had with our guests really propelled you to explore the design that you were created for. The best ways to support us: check out our socials, like, subscribe, leave a review, tell your friends, family, coworkers, neighbors. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope you'll tune back in next time.